Well, what else did Biden do? He broke one of the most cardinal rules of American politics, standing at the podium at NATO headquarters. This is what he said to the world.
But I think it's appropriate to say that the Republican Party is vastly diminished in numbers. The leadership of the Republican Party is fractured, and the Trump wing of the party is the bulk of the party, but it makes up a significant minority of the American people. And we'll see.
Well, for one thing, everything that he just listed is a lie. It's wrong. The Republican Party isn't the weakest it's ever been. If he was awake last November, he would have realized that the incumbent, my former boss, President Trump, received more votes than any other incumbent president in U.S. history. Likewise, accusations that we are more fractured than ever as conservatives or there's no leadership is quite strange if you look at the fact that Donald Trump is today the de facto conservative kingmaker. There is nobody else who's vying for the position of leader of conservatives or the GOP. So he's lying or knows not of what he speaks. What about that meeting with the former KGB colonel? When you have a good meeting with somebody, what do you feel like afterwards? Does it affect your mood? I think it does for most human beings. If you have a bad meeting with somebody, what kind of mood does it put you in? Well, I think we have a clue who fared better and who fared worse in that behind-the-doors meeting after we see this clip from how the man who bears the title of president reacted to a reasonable question from a CNN reporter. Play cut.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident in changing behavior. What the hell? What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is that the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world.
A very short fuse on his temper and irascible nature that may not simply be a function of how badly the meeting went with Vladimir Putin. It may indicate something else. For those who have family members who've suffered from premature senility or dementia, you know one of the signs is that lack of filter, that eagerness to jump to that angry response. Is that what we are seeing in the man who bears the title of Commander-in-Chief? Well, look at this clip from an earlier press conference and how Joe Biden tries to respond to another question.
Well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is.
Was there a glitch in the system? Is he an automaton that suddenly ran out of juice? Could this be a more serious issue? One man who has served as the physician to 3 presidents and is now a congressman from Texas is, of course, the former chief medical advisor to President Trump, Congressman Rear Admiral Ronnie Jackson. And he's just written a letter to Joe Biden, signed by 13 fellow congressmen, where he says, Mr. President, you need to have a cognitive test. Why? Because there are certain behaviors, he writes in that letter, that signal that someone should take a cognitive exam. These behaviors include patients repeating themselves, losing their car keys frequently, forgetting recent events, and multiple instances of forgetting conversations. Unfortunately, your forgetfulness and cognitive difficulties have been prominently on display over the past year. And of course, we've seen many, many instances, whether it's his not remembering who his Secretary of Defense is, whether it's confusing his wife for his sister, or not knowing what day Super Tuesday occurs on. We have a serious issue with the man in the White House who has control of our military, including our military nuclear weapons. But what about that military? It's not just the man who is ostensibly in charge. There is a problem with those who are sabotaging our military. Just a few days ago, the admiral who bears the title Chief of Naval Operations, Michael Gilday, was on Capitol Hill. Like every service chief, every senior military commander, every year they publish a list of recommended books. Books that I want you to read if you're a sailor, a marine, a soldier, a member of the Coast Guard, or what have you. The list of the CNO included a book by Ibrahim Kendi, a radical, bigoted author. And somebody asked the CNO why it was on his list. Listen to his answer.
This book states that capitalism is essentially racist. And Kendi is clear that racism must be eliminated. So yes or no? Do you personally consider advocating for the destruction of American capitalism to be extremist?
Here's what I know, Congressman.
It's a yes
There's
or no
racism
question,
in the United States Navy.
Admiral, you
I
recommended
think I have an
every
obligation.
sailor in the United States Navy read this book. It's a yes or no question.
I'm not forcing anybody to read the book. It's on a recommended reading list.
Admiral, did you read the book?
I did.
Okay. In college, Kendi stated that white people are a different breed of humans and are responsible for the AIDS virus. Yes or no, do you personally consider the conspiracy that white people started AIDS to be an extremist belief?
Sir, I'd have to understand the context.
That is a
these
simple
statements
question.
Are made. I'm not gonna sit
Admiral,
here-
this is a book
I'm
that
not
you
gonna sit here, sir,
recommended
and
every
defend-
sailor in the United States
defend
Navy read.
cherry-picked quotes from somebody's book. I'm not going to do that. This is a bigger issue than Kendi's book.
It is a bigger issue. It is the wokeification of the military, the subversion of the military. And it's not just one underlying senior officer. It's the boss. It's the Secretary of Defense, a man called Lloyd Austin, who by American law shouldn't even be the Secretary of Defense because he had retired too soon from the military to become its civilian head. When he was testifying before Congress in his confirmation hearings, he said something that should bother every American, whether you wear a uniform or not. This is Lloyd Austin, Biden's Secretary of Defense.
And if confirmed, I will fight hard to stamp out sexual assault and to rid our ranks of racist and extremists and to create a climate where everyone fit and willing has the opportunity to serve this country with dignity. The job of the Department of Defense is to keep America safe from our enemies. But we can't do that if some of those enemies lie within our own ranks.
Enemies within our own ranks? I used to work for the Department of Defense. I was a professor of irregular warfare and counterterrorism. And when you use the word enemy in the context of the military, it means one thing: a target that you will destroy or kill. We have a Secretary of Defense who's talking about people we have inside our armed forces that he wants to kill or destroy. This is personal for me. I've spent years training the military. I've worked with Fort Bragg for years and years and years. I'm still an instructor at the Special Warfare Center there in the JFK Center in Fort Bragg. And I can tell you, we do not have a problem with enemies in the military. We have a problem with enemies at the top, the political overlords who think they can use our brave men and women as some kind of social engineering petri dish.